Hey everyone. This actually has very little to do with this review, but it is a marker to any company that does advance, whether it's power or utility, what have you. In this case, telecommunications. And so that brings me to today's review, which is I want to talk about at least the initial experiences with, um, as you know, this is 6P and I own a 6, and both of them were actually targeted by Google to move you into their phone network, which is Project Fi. And when you do this, you get this little icon, which is Project Fi, and you click on it. And Project Fi is around the idea that it's going to go ahead and, I don't know if you can see that, that brightness might be a little, there we go. Project Fi, as you can see, the uh, you get the account, the billing, and the support, and those are the three primary tabs when you're running on. This phone is actually running on Project Fi, and they give you an idea of your current memory usage, or sorry, data usage, which and when you sign up for the program, it walks through and says, well, what do you think you're going to use? Are you going to use, 10 gigs, or are you going to use 5 gigs, 2 gigs, what have you, and you kind of set that. And that'll be your standard bill. They do $10 a gig, so with $20 to the phone. And so set currently at 1 gig because her data usage indicated that might be the way to go. Now, when you're going through Wi-Fi, doesn't count against you. Phone texting doesn't count against you. Just raw data usage. And another thing that they do is that if you go over by, say, 400 megabytes, they charge you $4, not the 10. Same thing if you're set for, say, you've got a program where you're setting it to, say, 4 gigs a month, and you come in at 3.2, you're going to get $8 back, which is a very interesting way for a company to go. Now, the experience, this is kind of a cool thing, is in the event that you run into problems, you go to the support tab and you can either email them or have them call you. And the starting off of this phone was not flawless. They transferred a number from Verizon, and there were some mix-ups. It takes about, if it's a fresh number and you're not transferring, you're looking at about 4 hours. If it is a transfer number, it can be as much as 2 days to kind of get everything to go back and forth. And by the way, her other carrier noticed immediately after she left, and she got some emails saying, "Please come back." I mean, like the day after. It was really surprising. The callback has always been pleasant. Uh, there has been some issues, and recently the owner has received an email from Google saying, we've looked at these data files, we've had you do this troubleshooting. We think it's the SIM card. They're sending her another SIM card, and I don't know what the specifics were, but they gave her some compensation back on her current bill. If you are looking to move away from the big giants and the big family plans, and you want to move to something where you have a little more handle on your data and maybe you've got access to Wi-Fi more regularly than not, this may not be a bad answer. It moves through Sprint and T-Mobile, I believe, and it hops between the two of those. Now, call quality. I've talked to the owner a few times on this phone, and I've made calls with this phone. The call quality has been pretty nice. It's been comparable to anything I've seen elsewhere. I use Verizon myself, at least right now. I'm watching her to see how this goes. And I don't think you can go wrong. I think this is a really economic where you get all the pluses of a pay-as-you-go phone without too many of the minuses. Now, if you're a heavy data user, this may not be the program for you. You may want to go ahead, like if you've got say a Verizon grandfathered in infinite data, you may want to suck it up and deal with that for a while. Or some other group. Or they're giving you like 15 gigs for what you'd normally pay for just 10 gigs here. That may be the way to go. But I found that, it hops back and forth really nicely. The tech team could not be any nicer, even if they weren't terribly helpful, even if they were running through the same exercises. They were there, and they were there at all kinds of hours. And when this phone was having some issues, and like I said, I actually do believe the SIM card was not able to initially receive calls. They just kept trying. Then they started sending emails. So the communication has been really great. Now the phone is back to working order, at least for the moment. Um, it could be a region. Once we get the SIM card, then I will do a follow-up. But at present, this works really well, and I've used the phone, and although I like my Nexus 6, I can't argue against this being a flagship phone and actually performing what I think will be well beyond anyone's standards. And I think the service is going to be well appreciated, well received. Google may have to fine tweak their data charge. You may find they move to an $8 a gig method, or maybe they go to a 12, depending on the area. But nonetheless, the ability to really control down to the hundreds of megabytes and be built on that is a very attractive offer for a lot of people. And so far, although it has, kind of like Windows, it didn't launch flawless, but the amount of effort and support you're getting, which is unlike obviously Google took a page note from their original launches, it really gives me a lot of faith that this is going to work out. This project is actually going to move forward. And it may even change how some of the other carriers behave, which I think they're already fighting for each other, and you're seeing that. So again, Project Fi so far, I'm watching, but it's tending towards a thumb up, and I've been really pleased with their support. I've been really pleased with their spontaneity and the sincerity you get from the people you call and talk to. Even the ones that weren't as tech savvy as some of the others, they were giving an honest heave-ho effort, and stuff was being done. The things were being recorded. They were sending emails on what you talked about. It is they're very understanding. When like I had to take over because I'm a little more tech savvy and speak the language. They got her permission immediately, and once it was cleared, they turned around and just started talking to me like I was the owner. So very flexible dynamic in Project Fi. So at the moment, if you're thinking about doing it, I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, I'll let you know how it goes, because once the SIM card goes in, if all the problems that completely disappear and they don't resurface, right now it's an intermittent problem, and weirdly enough seems to be on Mondays at her location of work. So I'm wondering if there's some tower confusion going on there. But after the SIM card gets in, I'll probably do a follow-up in a couple weeks. But right now, it, if this is a program that works for you, I say don't shy away from it. Particularly when for like an additional $25 a month for 2 years, you get a flagship phone if you want one with a lot of RAM. So I hope that helps. And if anybody has any questions, please follow up.